Let's see. Thank you. That's why no one's going to see my hair today. There we
Can you
are.
hear me?
Now we're live.
There we go.
Okay. And you can hear me?
Yes.
Okay. Good.
So once again, the Quarantine's Amateur Hour with Mark and Addie.
Speak for yourself. I'm professional.
Lisa and Tamsin have nothing to do with this.
No,
Oh,
you were.
Mark. I mean, Mark is a senior citizen now, so we have to give him some allowances.
I don't know how any of this stuff works.
Shared on your Facebook and everything.
I shared. Well, it's on my Facebook already. I shared it to the Instagram. And
That's instant.
oh, I'm gonna go and share it to the Twitters.
Hi to both Davids. I'm going.
Hey, David. David Balance is with us.
Your camera's aimed pretty low. Is that on purpose?
It is, because when I move the artwork down, I'm working on it down here. It will be on better
What do you need the ruler for?
to hold it. See, so that when I need to put it down, it stays.
You see how it works?
SMRT.
I'm SMRT.
It's the funniest thing to ever come out of The Simpsons. Hey, Mike Oming. Hi, Joanna. Hi,
Jay
Scott.
Durden. Hey, Jay Durden. Hey, Joanna.
Tyler Durden?
Tyler Durden.
Tyler Durden.
Tyler Durden. I'm getting kind of addicted to my old man voice. Might have to talk the rest of the cast like this.
Please do. Please.
Okay.
It'll be excellent.
All right. That's how I'm going to sound when I'm older. I might as well get used to it.
Is that your Grandpa Simpson?
It is.
Grandpa Brooks.
Don't forget about Drexler's powder. Don't make fun.
Hi, everyone.
Hey, everybody.
Hello, everybody.
Everybody.
Addie, do you like hard candy?
He does.
I do like hard candy.
Oh, I've got some butterscotch in my pocket if you'd like one.
Don't follow into the van, Addie.
As long as it's been out of the wrapper in your pocket for about a week.
We're collecting all the lint. Yes, yes.
Oh, little boys love hard candy.
This is taking a sinister turn.
Lisa, how do you feel about this future you're looking into?
I mean, I've come this far. I can't really start over again, so I'm pretty locked in.
Welcome to Thunderdome.
Aloha. We've got Hawaii. Jem is in the Philippines. All over the place.
Hey, Philippines, isn't it like super late there?
It is. It's like that, aren't they? It's going to be like 1 in the morning or so. Aren't they about 12 hours?
I think it's like 3 days in the future.
Yeah. It's
Oh,
already Wednesday there.
Go to bed. It's not worth staying up for this.
it's totally nonsense.
Truly. So the deal is, if people don't ask us questions today, I'm going to start asking Addie hypothetical questions.
Oh, God.
Oh, God.
Ugh.
Abby's going to really enjoy
All right,
that.
guys, it was fun.
I got some real doozies on deck.
Okay, I'm really looking forward to it. I don't know if the sarcasm came through.
You should. It's going to be awesome.
Uh-huh.
This is why I hate road tripping with Mark, because eventually he just starts asking me ridiculous questions, and I can't take it. I can't take it.
Why?
Abby, Scott Kurtz says that your accent is amazing. Would you like to describe what your accent is now, your interesting hybrid accent?
Is it amazing? It's it's really horrible.
I don't agree. I like it.
Well, I'm from Bosnia, and I learned to speak English from Arnold Schwarzenegger,
And it shows.
and then I really learned to speak English when I moved to the States. So, and now I've been here how long? 15 years.
15 years. Oh my
So,
gosh.
but I don't think I've picked up too much
British.
British.
No, just British slang.
People here think I'm Dutch. I don't know why.
Oh, that's interesting.
Well, I'm sure the way you look kind of goes into that a little bit.
Oh,
I don't look Dutch. I look like probably Polish or something.
yeah, you definitely look more.
Aren't the Dutch kind of blonde? You know,
Not
fair
necessarily
skin.
very tall, if I may stereotype, but they are.
Yeah, the Dutch are very tall.
very
I am not very tall.
But you are very wide with the
There you
mustache.
Yeah, I'm working on it. I can't do much about the height, but I can at least get.
You can do
super
something with.
Lady is asking who your favorite X-Men characters are to draw. Annie and Mark.
I don't know. I mean, traditionally, I've always really liked Scarlet Witch. I don't know why, but I actually haven't drawn her now in a long time, and I've really enjoyed Psylocke and Storm. And then I always like Wolverine. Yeah, probably it. What about you, Mark?
My favorite was always, I mean, one of my favorites was always Psylocke as well, but my absolute favorite ever since I was a kid has been Rogue, who I'm happen to be drawing right now.
I mean, I really like the X-Men because they are all so different, and like different personalities, different ethnicities, different like builds and shapes and sizes, and so I find it really fun.
I always liked them because they were, unlike so many of the other superhero teams. First off, you're right about the variety. The variety is awesome, but they're also very flawed.
Yeah, but they're more interesting.
That's what I've always had an issue with, like heroes that are just so wholesome and so kind of, like handsome and white.
Exactly.
Do you want to talk about what materials you guys are using?
Sure. I'm using I'm on a mounted. It's mounted crescent illustration board that I've mounted watercolor paper to, smooth hot press watercolor paper, and I am working in Faber-Castell pencils like that, and Copic and Shinhan markers, and then I'll move on to acrylic once I get a little farther along.
Oh.
Addie?
All that toilet paper I stockpiled, I had soaked in water and have created my own paper. So it's about 50 rolls of toilet paper in just this one board, because it like dissolves, and then you have to put it in a kind of a flat thing, and then it dries, and that's what it is.
Waste not, want not.
Well, I bought so much, and then our neighbors didn't have any, and then I felt kind of embarrassed to like do anything else with it, so I just destroyed it all.
Your neighbors didn't have any, so rather than give them some, you decided to destroy it all.
Well, I decided to make my own paper out of it.
Right.
Yep.
Brilliant.
Yep. And actually, all these pencils are made out of coronavirus testing kits.
Only the ones that work, though, right?
Oh yeah. Of course, I don't want the ones that don't work. No, I mean I'm just working on a. Let me see if you can see that. Where's the feed? So it's just a crescent illustration board. So it's just watercolor paper mounted onto the board, and right now I'm just using Faber-Castell Polychromos colored pencil. And technically, if I was working on a male character, I'd probably just use regular pencil to shade. But on a female character, because it's so like smooth, I think the regular pencil, the gray or the black, would make it too harsh. So that's why I'm rendering in colored pencil, and then I'm going to paint in acrylics on top of it. And technically, I could just go and paint straight without doing this rendering. But again, I'm trying to figure out the features and some of the like interesting shapes to the shading that I'd like to figure out first. Like, like on this arm, that these kind of like geometric shapes to kind of give it more strength than just kind of a smooth, rounded thing. So that's pretty much it. But actually, I can show you, because I think Mark and I do something similar, but then we diverge. So I did the sketch for this digitally, and then I printed it out on just printer paper. And then what I do is I rub graphite onto the back of it, and then I taped it down onto this board that I'm working on, and then I just use a regular ballpoint pen to like press down on it, and it transfers it onto the board. So that's my process.
Who's your favorite X-Men artist?
My favorite X-Men artist right now, Olivier. That rogue he did is unbelievable.
It really is.
Yeah, I really, really love how Olivier does X-Men.
My favorite all-time X-Men artist, though, is actually the artist that influences Olivier, which is Mark Silvestri.
It's really weird, though, because I don't really see, because I really like Silvestri as well, but I don't really see that much of him in Olivier at all anymore.
Not anymore, but Olivier, I mean, definitely started off. That was his go-to. He's obviously diverged off of that and doing his own thing now. But like even now, if you ask him, he's a huge fan of Silvestri.
Linneal's stuff is always gorgeous.
Linneal is unbelievable, especially at Wolverine.
Yeah, that's great. Wolverine.
I love Linneal's camera angles. Everything's got that kind of like skewed perspective. Not everything, but a lot of times he uses that, especially when he does his group shots.
Yeah.
I really love that. So I use the polychromos the way Addy does similarly, but he does his because he lays down paint. I do my marker work, and then I use the polychromos after instead of before, and I just use it just to basically smooth out the marker. Because sometimes, especially when I go over a spot with too many times with the marker, the paper can start puckering, which is probably a bad term because it's not really puckering. It creates these little dead holes in the paper that I've not been able to find any watercolor paper that doesn't do that. So this just kind of softens those areas up and makes them look a little more smooth.
Do you find it difficult to get? No, I was going to ask, do you find it difficult to get markers to blend on watercolor paper?
No, I really don't. The blending is fine. It blends great. The problem is just the paper itself. And I haven't been able to find anything that works as well as watercolor paper. I mean, Bristol doesn't blend as well. The thinner paper is just too thin to mount because the acrylic varnish will bleed through and create these areas that won't even accept marker. So I'm left with this until someone can invent a watercolor paper that doesn't create those pock holes in them.
You're a pothole.
I am a pock hole. Yeah, like pock marks almost. Yeah. And it's not always, like I said, it's just when it seems to do it the most with warm colors for some reason. And again, it's only when I like go over an area a bunch of times, because sometimes you just have to if you're trying to get a certain blend, like especially when you're working on the face. I'm trying to really combine a lot of colors to get the kind of like a little bit of warmth in the shadow area, a little bit of coolness in the shadow area, a little bit of warmth in the highlighted areas. So I'm having to lay down a lot of markers on top of each other.
Hi, we've got some more people. Alexander from Australia just joined us. Max, Agnes, Jason.
Dr. Alexander?
Yes.
Awesome.
Dr. Henry. And Philip Sablick is watching. Hi, Philip.
Oh, awesome. Hey, Philip.
Who's watching?
Philip from Boom.
Philip's the, I don't want to mischaracterize him. The Grand
High
Poobah.
Priestess of Boom.
He's either publisher or editor in chief, and I can't remember, and I don't want to get it wrong by saying give him the wrong title. I know he's high up. He's the Grand Poobah.
And congrats, Philip, on the Netflix deal you guys just announced.
Oh, that's right. Yeah.
Addie, have you ever worked with the watercolor markers or no?
Watercolor markers.
Well, like the touch and the
they're not watercolor. They're
water.
alcohol based.
Okay.
Yeah, I've used them before. Yeah. They're not really for me.
Yeah.
Yeah, I used them when I worked on Extremis. I did a few pages in black and white with just grayscale markers. Yeah, they just didn't. They weren't for me.
Didn't do it for you.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Ryan Kincaid is saying he replaces color pencil sets. He's wondering which brand you two suggest. He originally used Prismacolor.
Now the question is, because I'm quite a nerd about colored pencils. Prismacolors are completely different to work with than the pencils that I'm using now.
Yeah.
And it's all down to the oil content in the pencil. And these have a very high oil content. So they're really, really nice to draw with. They're really, really nice to blend together. They're also quite erasable, but they don't have the covering power of Prismacolor. And Prismacolor have quite a bit more covering power. But the way I use them, because I use both these and I use Caran d'Ache and Prismacolor, and I use these when I'm doing this directly on paper, and I use Prismacolor sometimes as like the finishing touch on top of paint because they actually show up better than these on top of paint. But I generally really don't like Prismacolors. I think they're really terrible quality. So I recommend trying these. They're Faber-Castell. I can't really see that. They're called Polychromos. And then I'll show you the box. Because these are actually now my new favorite pencils, even more so than Faber-Castell. And they're these ones, the Pablos, and they're just as nice
Are
as
they also Faber-Castell or?
no, Caran d'Ache. They're the closest to Faber-Castell, but I think they have slightly more covering power. And then Caran d'Ache also make. I'll show you that box too. The luminance, and these are really good because they actually have the same covering power as Prismacolors. It's just that I like to use pretty much any I can get my hands on because they all have different pigments. So Prismacolor will have pigments that Caran d'Ache don't have. Caran d'Ache will have pigments that Prismacolor or Faber-Castell don't have. So I kind of like mix and match. Because I probably have in these four sets, I probably have something like 400 different pencils. So I'm sorry, it's a really not a good answer. But
It's a very informative one.
Yeah, that was very, yeah. I'm very similar. I use the polychromos when I'm doing my detail work. I really only use Prismacolors if I'm looking for a super hard line color and for like highlights. I think the if you really want to get like nice hard white highlights, Prismacolor white is the best. But even when I'm working on highlights, I still use a white polychrome because it's just I can just work it better.
Ryan says it was a great one. He appreciates your time.
yeah, if you're just gonna draw with colored pencils and do what I'm doing right now, for instance, these are absolutely the best because they're really, really smooth and they're almost as smooth as regular pencil.
That's the thing. Yeah, they feel like a regular pencil.
Yeah.
A lot.
So you can get a really sharp line with them, which often, like, try getting a sharp line with Prismacolors.
Yeah.
You might get like one line and then they crumble. But these, as you can tell, I can just keep going and going.
And as long as you're rolling your pencil while you work, you don't have to sharpen it that often. All right, no more questions are coming in. I'm going to start asking Addie hypotheticals.
Addie's excited.
My silence probably tells you just how excited I am.
Oh, Phil back. Hi, Phil. He just joined and he's asking what brand of colored pencil you're using.
It's Faber-Castell polychromos right now.
Yeah, and all good colored pencils are expensive. I haven't bought any in a long time because I just stocked up. But the difference between really good colored pencils and then the really cheapy ones is huge.
Yeah, it's very evident.
But I find that with all art materials anyway.
Though I've always argued that, obviously there's a huge difference between pencils and different tools, but I've always argued that, it's not the tool, it's the artist. And I've always liked the idea of you and I doing a live cast sometime with each of us get one of those boxes of like 72 Crayola crayons and see what we can create in an hour with at a crayon.
That'd be fun.
I think it would be fun. Be a fun little challenge.
Byron is asking, are these pieces for covers or are they commissions?
Mine is neither. Mine's just for you guys. So you
For
can
funsies.
for funsies.
Same.
Hey, we got it.
Just showing you guys what we can do. Excuse me.
Oh, God, Mark.
Sorry, guys.
He forgot he was live broadcasting on Facebook for a second. Agnes is asking, and it's not a silly question, the paper you use, is it usually hot press or cold press watercolor paper with the polychromos?
I use hot press.
Yep, hot press. Yeah, I use hot press, and watercolor hot press still has slight like fuzziness to it, so it's not as smooth as like Bristol.
Yeah.
But it's yeah.
You find cold press a bit too usually, right?
Yep, yeah, cold press. I especially at the scale I work at, it gives me just a bit too much texture that interferes with like the detail that I want to get.
Yeah, I go for as smooth as possible, but I do like a little bit of tube, because that way when you lay down the pencils, it really, the pencils grab the paper.
Ryan Kincaid said he saw Bruce Timm use sidewalk chalk at his house.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, seriously, you can really use anything. I mean, that's why I like the idea of trying that out. I'm sure it would be frustrating exercise.
What's that?
If we were to do like a Crayola challenge.
I mean, yeah, you can use. The thing is, I find with like cheaper art materials, if I'm trying to achieve something like professional, cheaper art materials just take longer, because the pigment in like cheaper acrylic paints, for instance, is there's way less pigment and way more just the acrylic medium holding it together. So you just you have to use so much more paint, which obviously takes more time, and then also the paint it might not be fully like archival, and it might fade, it might do this or that, and that's why I always just go for the best that I can find. Like the biggest difference is cheap watercolor and good watercolor. It's unbelievable. I mean, it's completely different like materials.
Joan is asking, how long does it take to finish an artwork similar to what you guys are doing? If the details on the face itself, it must take hours.
Oh God, I'm hoping to do this in about 8 hours, but looking at it now, it probably will take a bit longer. I mean, I've already spent about 4 hours on it to get it like the drawing to like the stage where I like just figuring out the perspective of this headpiece. It took me like 2 hours today just to get it right. So
yeah, I'm similar. This will probably take, I don't know, 10 to 12 hours or so.
I'd add a few more.
Why? Because you've watched me work and you know.
Yeah. Mark is way more optimistic about his time management skills than he actually is.
I used to be. I used to always maintain that like I can do a cover in a day, and then I realized that those days have long gone.
Yeah.
Now I'm thinking more like, okay, a week is a good estimate, and it still takes about 10 days.
Phil is asking, he said he'd love to hear you guys talk about techniques for adding highlights. And he also wants to know if you ever get tired of questions about tools and techniques.
I don't actually.
And then getting tired. Highlights and then getting tired.
Well, I'll first answer the getting tired just because it's a quick answer. I don't get tired at all if they're like, questions that are coming from a place of like wanting to learn, and having, not just asking something that you can like find easily and Googling for like 2 minutes. So questions are, I'm putting that wrong. It's basically like the questions when people are like, oh wow, how did you do, what kind of pencil do you use? That's to me different to, hey, what kind of colored pencil do you recommend? Because then we can have a discussion about color or any kind of pencils. But I think people who just think that a pencil will make you good, those kind of questions I get tired of. Does that make sense?
That's my level of frustration. I don't mind the questions at all. I enjoy talking about art technique. I mean, Addie, you and I will get on Skype and we'll end up talking about art technique for a couple of hours. We're talking about mediums and approaches and things like that, and I enjoy that. Now, I don't mind answering questions like what pencil is that or what marker is that, but it's when like I'm at my table at a convention and someone walks up and they stand there for all of 30 seconds while I'm working and they go, "What kind of marker is that?" And I show them and they go, "Okay, thanks," and they walk away, and I'm like, "You're missing the point." The tool is important, but if you really want to learn how to do this, I'm sitting here putting on a clinic of how to do this, and all you got to do is sit there and watch, But so many people think the secret is the medium and the secret is the medium or the tool and not the actual person wielding it. People are always looking for a trick. They're looking for a shortcut when there really is not one.
Yeah, sorry, Tamsin, what was the question about highlights?
It was, he would love to hear you guys talk about techniques for adding highlights.
Boy, that's a kind of a how long is a piece of string question, because it really also depends on whether it kind of depends on which like materials you're using, on which technique you're using. So if you're doing kind of watercolor type painting, then you leave the highlights, you leave the white of the paper as the highlight, and then you build around that or build towards it. So you go light to dark or dark to light or whatever. The way I do it usually is, and I'll start painting this fairly soon, I will put down like the whole thing will be kind of a mid skin tone, and then I will go both darker and lighter. And I always try to slightly alter the warmth of what I'm trying to, I'm getting tangled up in my own answer because I'm trying to figure out the best way to describe it. So basically, if you have a blue ball or a red ball, let's say red ball, you render the red ball from like darkest red to the lightest red, and you can do the whole thing in just the same hue of red. But because that's not really how it works in nature, and it also kind of makes it pop more, if I do cooler shadows, I will do slightly warmer highlights. So as I'm altering that red, I will go slightly cooler into the dark, and slightly warmer into the light, and it gives it so much more life. And then the biggest trick, and I think the biggest kind of issue that a lot of artists have, is that they make the highlight on the main subject so bright that it doesn't correspond to anything else in their painting. And that's what kind of like makes it look a bit dead. So it's better to have a highlight that is corresponding to whatever your environment is that you're painting in. And now that's a whole other kind of like discussion. But Thompson, does that make any sense that I'm saying?
Yeah, that's funny.
Because like, if I put this here, there's a red object, and you can really see on it how the red changes. And you could render this whole thing in the same red with just adding a bit of black or adding a bit of white, but it'll end up looking dead. But instead, because the light, my light that's shining onto it is a warm light, you start adding a bit more like yellow ochre into it and a bit more white, and then a bit more like well, if you add a bit of green into the red, it starts turning it into like this really rich red, and it gives it this real volume. That's at least my approach to it.
No, I agree with that. I'm doing the same thing similarly. Like what you didn't see me do with this piece is the first thing I did was lay down kind of a bubblegummy purple into the shadowed area of her face, and I really only hit it where I knew the hardest shadows were going to be, and then I go over the whole thing with a warmer flesh tones, like a color called silk, a color called blush, and I use those in areas where they're going to obviously where the light is going to hit it, and it's going to be a warmer color. But then I'll use a color called blush that I'm also trying to show a fleshiness or a luminosity to the skin, and in different parts of your skin, blood gathers more. It gathers more in some areas than others. For instance, the end of your nose. So while I'm considering highlights and things like that on the nose, I'm also considering tone. When it comes to just how the face works, and this comes from just looking at faces in real life and kind of examining how they work and trying to reverse engineer what you see and translate it into whatever medium you're working on. Did that make any sense?
No. Indeed. Question from Oscar, who's asking, how do you feel about digital art, and is it something either of you would transition to?
We both already do digital art, actually. We
I do a lot of digital art. When I do concept art, I do almost, well, not everything, but I do quite a lot of it digitally.
And even for this, the original, the sketch that I did for this was done digitally. So I kind of like try to use all the tools available for the best like results, or if it's speed, or if it's like for concept art, I have to be able to change stuff around and do multiple versions of the same thing. Then I'll use digital, and but for the finished stuff, I just prefer I prefer the look, and I preferred kind of working traditionally, just like the physicality of it. But also, obviously, ending up with a nice piece of original art is very important to me.
Oh yeah. No, I've done a fair amount of digital covers in my life. If my entire run on Kanan, the last Padawan, that entire run of covers, with the exception of the first one, were all painted digitally.
But do you see yourself ever going full digital?
No, because like Addie said, I mean, I count on the original artwork because I just like the physicality of it, but it also the physical artwork is part of my income, selling the originals. So if I were to go full digital, I would literally be cutting off my income at the knees.
I mean, I've done. Because I've been working, well, I more, but I was working on some more previous projects, and I would say 80% of what I did in the last 4 months was digital, just because it's more practical, really.
Okay, Addie. Hypothetical question number 1.
Okay.
The rule is you have to answer. Okay?
Sorry, what?
You have to answer.
Well, that's up to me to judge.
No, you have to answer. And people listening can play along at home. Okay, so you either have to have your hands cut off, both hands,
All right.
or you can keep your hands, but you have to forget everything you've learned when it comes to art up until this point.
What a ridiculous question.
No, answer.
I mean, the answer would be I'd probably just kill myself. Because
You can't
either
kill
one would mean the same thing. I
Not
mean,
necessarily. You can get
I-
artificial hands and have
okay,
them again.
I'd probably give up my knowledge before my hands.
Yeah.
I could relearn it, or I could do something else with my hands.
But you can't regrow your hands.
Yeah.
What about you, Mark?
I would probably. Oh man, that's tough.
The question you pose.
Well, no, it's hard. Well, I only think I'm to ask Addie. I don't think I'm to answer myself. I would probably. I think I'd probably forget everything I know about art and just have to relearn it.
It's a ridiculous question.
It's an awesome question. No, you want a ridiculous question. Here's a ridiculous question, okay? So
Okay.
either you have to have a 7-inch penis going out of your forehead,
Okay.
Okay.
or 4 butt cheeks.
I mean,
Oh, extra butt cheeks could be comfy.
the thing is, a penis growing out of your forehead, the plumbing for it would mean that like your brain would have to be displaced.
It
And
doesn't
you'd probably-
necessarily mean it works. It's
Huh?
just, it doesn't necessarily mean it works. You have 2 penises. You have your regular penis, and then you have your forehead penis.
Yeah, but if it's just a growth, then I just have that and have it removed.
You can't. It's got a nerve that goes to your brain. If you have it removed, you die. You have to live the rest of your life with penis forehead or 4 butt cheeks.
I mean, I guess 4 butt cheeks. Oh God.
Jem is asking. Oh, is Lisa asking a question?
What's up, love?
Jem is asking, have you guys ever had an incident where you're almost done with an original work, but then you have an accident and you would have to start all over again?
Because you are professional.
Well, no.
I mean, I've been quite far into a piece, and either had an accident and had to like deal with it, or I realized I wasn't liking it and I started it again. But it wasn't because of an accident; it was just because of I just realized I wasn't happy with it. But any accident I've had, even though it like might have been like it seemed like a horrible, like I'd have to start over, I've managed to actually salvage, and especially painting with acrylics.
Literally anything can be fixed as long as the surface is still there.
Yeah, if I'm that far along in a piece and I mess up, I'm just gonna figure out a way around it by, like Addie said, I'm just gonna paint over it or try to figure something out. It's only if it's like the piece is just absolutely not working to my satisfaction that I'll just start over, which like I did recently with that Psylocke piece. I realize mine's at a weird angle. I'll show you guys how this is coming out. If you guys can see that.
Tim says some of the dishes that I post on Facebook have them drooling. Even the quick, easy stuff is amazing. Thank you very much. We've been experimenting a little bit and eating all kinds of crap.
Lisa's a very good cook experimentation person. So she usually makes some amazing food for us.
I did just go pick up a bunch of potato chips from the farmer's market.
Oh yeah, what'd you get? You got like barbecue eel.
Yeah, barbecue eel,
Uh,
spicy crawfish, beef tomato or something. We're gonna have a potato chip tasting later.
They sound delicious.
Yeah, there were a lot of seafoody ones. Those are gonna be the best ones.
Oh, you think? I got that.
Prawn cocktail, baby.
Oh, the prawn cocktail is amazing. But I got the what was it? Squid
Yeah.
or something? Oh God, that was not good.
Martin is asking, what's something that you miss during lockdown that you never thought about during normal life, except for the gym, Brad?
I don't actually miss the gym at the moment either, because I figured out how to like do some fun stuff. But I mean, I really just miss going places. I miss like getting into a car and driving to like a store. That's the only thing. I mean, it's not like a horrible thing or anything. It's just no. Again, I'm gonna sound like my grandfather talking about the war, but I have to do it just because it really does apply. It's really hard for me to like be too bummed out because I remember missing food or missing electricity or missing water. So this, it's all right. Look at us. We're on we're live streaming on Facebook, bullshitting about penises growing out of our foreheads. So,
oh, not our forehead, just yours.
Yeah.
I just miss generally, like, yeah, the one thing I miss, and again, it's just an inconvenience. Like, we have this, I have an art supply away from me. It's very super convenient. They have just about everything I would need, but they closed for the quarantines. So if I need me, yeah. Well, you used to order online, but the store itself is closed. So if I need anything, I have to like plan ahead. I can't just go, oh, I need this and run out and grab it. I've got to go, okay, well, how am I doing? Because what am I going to need 2 days from now or 3 days from now, so that I can go and order it? And that's a real pain in the ass.
We don't have a really like a store like that here. So anything more specialist I order anyway, and they're open at the moment. So it's kind of like business as usual. And my favorite online art store, they're amazing. Like, even during this time, you order something and like following day or 2 days later,
it shows up.
Yeah, so I'm quite like.
Oscar has a question just before he has to leave, so I thought to just ask it quickly. He's asking if these are your favorite costumes for Storm and Rogue, respectively.
Not necessarily. I don't really care about like costumes, really, to be honest. I chose this one because I thought it would be really fun to play. If you can see, with this shape, with these shapes, and have like this open, so you can see like the side of her body, and then also like I thought it would be really, because it's quite a challenging thing to do the armpit with the arm up and stuff. So that's basically why I chose this costume, but. It's not really like I like it, but it's not my favorite. But I don't have a favorite.
Yeah, this is not my favorite. Well, the costume I'm doing right now, I'm doing kind of a hybrid of a few of her different costumes, because this kind of looks like the flight costume that I drew when I did my run on X-Men Legacy. But then I also added the hood to it. That costume originally had a scarf around her neck and no hood, so I added a hood to it. And I remember seeing a Rogue that had kind of these arm sleeves, and then white gloves. So yeah, it's like I said, a little bit of a hybrid. Oh, and this one also, the original costume that did have the hood had a cape, and it had this kind of like cut at the waist, whereas the flight suit that I did in Legacy had like a belt with pouches on it. So I'm doing like around the shoulders and chest is the flight suit, and then the hood, and then the kind of cut of her her top coat to be like the caped version, and then the white gloves just because just to set the hands a little apart from the rest of the sleeve.
Gloves to go with her arm sleeves.
What's that?
To go with her arm sleeves.
Are they the hands go with the arm sleeves?
They are the hands that go with the arm sleeves. What are you talking about?
I've never heard anybody refer to the arm
no,
sleeves.
okay, I see where the confusion is. Her arm sleeve, she's got it doesn't attach to her shoulder. Does that make sense? They're like the gloves you pull up that go all the way up to like mid bicep.
It's cool.
I hate you, Addie.
Ed is asking if Lisa and Tamsin were to host a live stream together, what would they be doing?
That's a good question.
That is a very good question. Right now, I would be telling you all about my Animal Crossing island. So
I could
that would be a
I could talk for days about spreadsheets. So it's really exciting stuff, guys.
So join Lisa and Tamsin next week for spreadsheets and Animal Crossing.
Yeah.
Sounds amazing.
No, I bet Tamsin and I could do like a hot pepper eating challenge.
Oh yeah.
Oh, that'd be pretty good.
Yep.
We love spicy food.
Actually, can we do that next week? Can we just have you and Tamsin on, and you guys just eat a like a Carolina Reaper, and we'll just make it a 10-minute cast of you guys crying.
Yep. I'm sorry, Ed. I'm not a very exciting person.
That is not true.
Same here.
That is not true for either of you.
Pretty true. But really, my island is the best.
Tamsin, have you heard the story about Elijah Wood?
No.
That he's like big into Animal Crossing, and so he's like, playing with like just regular people. So all of a sudden they're like, "Oh, Elijah Wood's come over," and he's buying turnips.
And he's buying turnips.
Yeah.
My turnips, yeah.
I have a good Elijah Wood story.
Yeah.
I mean, it's a very short story, but it was in San Diego. It was at San Diego Comic-Con, and we were out in the evening, and CB was like, we were walking in the is it Gaslight or Gaslamp?
Gaslamp.
Gaslamp district, yeah. and we walked by this bar, and he's like, "Oh, let me show you this. This bar has this like a fake wall, and it's really cool. And there's like a secret room behind this fake wall. And we go in, and it's a wall of kegs, but they're not real kegs. You realize that it's a fake wall. And as we were approaching it, suddenly this wall opens, and Elijah Wood comes out. And I was like, does this happen every time?
Watch, there's this fake wall and a bit of kegs, and when you open it, Elijah Woods comes out.
Yeah. I was like, wow, that's really cool.
That was like Lisa. We were walking. It was one night in San Diego. I don't remember where we were coming from. We were leaving a party or going to a party, but we had already had dinner, and Lisa had already been enjoying her wine. And were you walking with Olivier or somebody, and you were just laughing your ass off about something? And Lisa just shoulder checked this person that was the same height as her, and turned around, and it was Patton Oswalt. And you just went, "Oh, I'm sorry, Patton," and just kept walking.
Mark still there? They went very quiet.
Hey, Mark.
Can you guys hear me?
Yeah, you went very muffled.
Yeah.
Oh, I don't know why. I'm literally right here with the camera's right above my head.
Yeah. All good.
Yeah, your feed, your video was fine. It's just you went really like distant suddenly.
Oh, sorry. Did you hear the Patton Oswalt story?
Yeah.
Okay.
We did. Yeah, it was just at the tail end of it. It kind of like suddenly it seemed like you went distant.
Oh,
You did turn your head when you were.
maybe that was it. I like to go distant sometimes.
Mm.
I'm aloof like that. That's what people always tell me. I'm very aloof.
Yep, that's my first thing that I think of you is that you're very aloof.
I am.
He's very hard to read.
Yeah, you know.
Very cold.
I'm very cold. I hold things very close to my chest, you know.
And you're very quiet when you get drunk.
Very quiet. Very like.
Almost mute.
Yeah. Is there something wrong with Mark? Lisa says I should come out of my shell more.
Oh, all right, to make this more interesting, I think I'm going to start cleaning.
Guys, have you watched anything new on TV this last week? Anything good?
We watched Extraction.
Well, you watched half of it.
Oh, I watched half of it. I fell asleep.
Yeah, we watched. Well, we've been watching Westworld.
Yeah.
And then we watched the first 2 seasons of Fargo.
Oh, how was that? I heard it's great.
I really, really loved the first season. Second season, I mean, it's made us like discuss it quite a bit, but I kind of decided that I wasn't. But I like afterwards, after it finished, I decided that I didn't like it as much as the first.
It was still good television, and it was well acted, and it was beautifully shot.
Oh, it looks amazing, yeah.
Cinematography is really, really great. It's just we felt that overall the story in the second one and the character development neither were as strong as in the first.
Yeah, the first one was just awesome.
Yeah.
It's kind of like an anthology, right? Is it sort of different every season?
Yeah, it's different characters every season.
Well, the second season tells the story of some of the characters from the first season, but like what is it, like 26 years earlier? So some of the characters are the same, but they're like 26 years younger.
Oh, wow.
But it is a completely separate story.
Oh, we watched Birds of Prey.
Oh God.
Oh, the movie?
Yeah.
Yeah. Not good.
Well, it definitely had some good moments. I was surprised nobody was talking about how awful Ewan McGregor was. I thought he was terrible. Like I had to look away sometimes when he was acting. And I actually love him, so that was really disappointing. That was me.
I would not dog on DC because I like DC's characters, and I desperately want Warner Brothers to get it right. And they I don't know what it is that they can't find the formula. Wonder Woman was very enjoyable. I really enjoyed that because that seemed, well, they did something they didn't do a lot of their other movies. They put a little humor in it. It had heart. You know, you actually really liked, you know, the character of Wonder Woman because there was an innocence to her, you know, discovering the world and all this. And I thought it was really well done. I thought the villain was kind of whatever, but I think a lot of movies, even good comic book movies, the villains are very whatever. So, you know, if I'm not going to hold the villain in Iron Man against that movie, I can't hold, you know, the villain in Wonder Woman against that one either, because the rest of it really did hold up for me. But yeah, that seems to be it. I felt like they were trying something with Shazam, and I think it could have been very good, but I couldn't get into it like I'd hoped I would, because I thought that movie was going to have kind of the humor and to it, and I don't know, even that one kind of fell flat to me. And I like the actors that were in that one as well.
Yeah, Kyle says Wonder Woman 84 looks fun. I agree, that looks great, and I think Kristen Wiig is going to be awesome.
I do like her.
I love her.
That was one of my gripes with Extraction last night, and I mean I can understand why they didn't do it, but Chris Hemsworth is. I don't know if you guys follow Chris Hemsworth on Instagram, but he is hysterical. Like he has such a great sense of humor, and
He was great in Ghostbusters.
oh,
I
absolutely.
loved him in Ghostbusters.
And there is pretty much zero humor in Extraction. It's just Chris Hemsworth being a badass, which is fine. But like I kind of saw Chris Hemsworth kind of go in the direction of The Rock, where he's this super good looking, super built dude, and that's what makes it so refreshing that he has like this really great sense of humor.
No, I think he actually genuinely has really good comic timing. I actually didn't hate that Ghostbusters film that lots of other people were complaining about.
No,
And I
I
really
liked
liked him in it.
I like the film, but I did think that he was like standout, really.
Yeah.
Oh, he was.
Kyle Blackwell said he recommended a show called Devs, DEVS. Do you know what that is?
Oh, I've heard of that. Yeah, I haven't ever watched it, but I know what he's talking about.
Yeah, I've heard it's good. You guys might like it. It definitely has a seems to have some sort of sci-fi mystery type thing going on. I don't know.
Well, I did watch first 2 episodes of the new Ghost in the Shell TV anime.
Yeah, how's that?
I mean, the story seems like decent so far. The problem is it's 3D animated, and the designs are amazing, but the people are. Well, it's like 3D animated from like 15 years ago. So, they have that 2D look.
Yeah.
So I don't actually mind the models, and they're really nice and really nicely done. But their movement, it's obviously, I mean, it's hand animated rather than like what is it called when they motion capture.
Yeah.
It's just really stilted. So the whole thing looks to me like you're watching a video game cutscene rather than.
I see.
So it kind of takes you out of it. But the designs, like mechanical designs, are pretty awesome.
So you say it's not near as good as like something like Gantz, as far as the anime goes.
That Gantz the movie?
Yeah.
No. I mean, Gantz the movie is pretty actually amazingly done.
You actually might like that, Lisa. It's really interesting. Gantz. It's based off an anime, and I guess the movie is technically an anime, but it's all computer rendered. And it's super well done, but it's about these people that they kind of get kidnapped, right?
Well, I mean, I don't want to ruin it.
Well, I mean, it's the setup of it.
Yeah, but the setup kind of like part of the setup is like is the part of the mystery.
That's true. But anyway, they kind of wake up in this room, and they're wearing like this all black almost kind of S&M-y looking uniform, and they get transported into this world where these monsters are trying to kill them, and they have to basically it's kind of like they're dead. I mean, it is. I mean, it's kind of like they're trying to earn their life back.
It's like, I'm not going to ruin this, but I'm going to ruin it for you.
Well, no, they give that away pretty quickly, right?
When you were telling me you were going to give it away.
Anyway, I knew that going into it. Anyway, it's really good. You might like it.
If you like boob monsters.
Oh, yeah.
The monster concepts in it are great.
Hi, Olivia. Olivia is watching.
All right. I've already been
at this for an hour.
Yep. And I have not moved off the space yet.
Well, I drew the whole thing, so that's something. I don't know if how do I do this?
Here, I'll move on to her hair and I'll come back to her face. Let's see, maybe my warms.
You can't go really far away, so it's really
Okay.
Should I try and get it closer?
it's hard
Sorry,
to
sorry. Something.
But Ed is saying he remembers how exciting Reboot was when it first came out with the first
Oh, God,
100%
yeah.
CG show.
I remember. Actually, do you remember Max Headroom?
Oh, yeah.
That had one of the first like CG. Well, technically it wasn't, but it was an actor doing like a CG character, but they made it look kind of CG. And I remember as a kid, it like blew my mind. I was like, "What the hell?"
It was so creepy. The creepiness to it I really liked.
Yeah, that's not fair. You should have been there.
This is better?
Oh, yeah, before, it was too far away.
Okay. I feel like she gets distorted though. As long as it's better. The other problem is the lighting here is not the best.
Kyle, a screenplay for a body horror film where someone wakes up with a dinghy on their forehead and 4 butt cheeks. Directed by David Cronenberg.
If I want to watch that, it would gross the hell out of me.
That's what body horror does.
Yep. Sounds horrible.
I think it sounds pretty awesome.
Sounds just awful.
Mark does like weird horror films. So.
That's true.
He was watching one last night after I went to bed, and I just every 5 to 10 minutes I just heard like screaming and banging from downstairs. I was like, oh my
I
god.
stopped watching it after about an hour. It was not good.
Wow.
What was it?
Dark Light.
Oh, never heard of it.
Mark watches every bad horror movie that's ever been made.
Well, no, I'm just watching horror movies in general because there's so few of them that are good out there. But I have genres I like. Like I really don't like ghost horror movies. Not because they scare me, because they don't scare me at all. I find them boring.
See, I'd much rather watch ghost horror movies.
No, I definitely go in for like I like zombie, and I like monster, depending on what the monster one is, and I sometimes like the human monster, you know, the serial killer on the loose kind of thing. I don't like hack slash like Friday the 13th or anything, because I just think they're hackney and not good.
But you'll still watch it all.
I haven't seen all the Friday the 13ths just because it just doesn't interest me. What was the one about the woman that's deaf? And the guy basically is just tormenting her. It came out not long ago. It's called like Silence or something like that. Anyways, the whole movie is this woman she's a writer or something and living in a house in the woods, and this guy wearing one of those like weird masks just starts tormenting her, and because she's deaf, he just continually messes with her.
Terrible.
It's really good, and of course, you know, I'm not gonna give away the ending, but it's cool. It's really good flick. I didn't give away. I didn't say anything. I'm not doing it.
I don't like horror movies at all.
I hate them. I hate them.
The only horror movies, and I actually don't consider them horror movies, but they're kind of classified as like sci-fi horror. Those are the only ones.
Yeah.
I just like science fiction, but horror movies are not for me.
I definitely like science fiction horror. It's some of my favorite, you know. Like Alien is still one of my favorite horror movies of all time.
I just wouldn't consider that a horror. But I know
Alien's a horror movie. Aliens is definitely not. The way I look at it, if a movie has a jump scare in it, it's a horror movie. And there's a lot of jump scares in Alien.
That's true. There is.
I think my favorite movie is The Thing.
Oh, The Thing is awesome. That's one of the best horror movies ever made. Absolutely. There was some movie, I cannot think of the name of it now. It was a science fiction movie, came out somewhat recently, and it's about these guys on a space station, or like in a shuttle or something. I can't remember what the deal was because it's been a while. But they end up bringing some biological life form. It looks like a fungus or something on board.
Oh,
Light. Life. That was it. I thought that was really well made.
It was decent.
You know that there were all those rumors that was actually a prequel to Venom.
Yeah.
Oh, really?
Yeah, but it turned out not to be true. But the filmmakers, when the rumor kind of like spread, the filmmakers didn't say no because they knew it was gonna mean that like more people go see the film.
I want to say that's very smart.
I mean, technically, I could even see it up until the very end, because it kind of, I actually think it would have been a really good Venom origin story.
Yeah.
Mark, was the horror film you were just talking about called Hush?
Yes,
Yeah.
Hush. That's it.
Yeah, because Mara said Hush. So
Yeah, I like those flicks because I like. I was kind of into like the Saw movies and like Hostel when they first came out, the kind of shock, gore porn. But that got old so quickly. I like suspense. I like holy shit kind of the kind of way we feel when we're like in the house alone and you hear a noise that just turns out to be the cat knocking something over, but there's a second of what the hell was that? I like that kind of suspense.
That sounds like the worst thing ever to me.
Well, if you're watching a movie, I mean, it's fine.
No,
Fight or flight is too strong.
yeah, my fight or flight, and because there's no like police for it, it just drives me to like a rage. I hate horror movies. Absolutely.
But Martin's asking if you like Event Horizon.
I love Event Horizon again, but it's because it's amazing to look at.
It's a pretty movie, yeah.
It does have a couple of really scary moments in it,
Mm-hmm.
but it is a really good to look at.
Did you ever see Sunshine?
Yeah.
Yes, really good until the end.
Oh, yeah. Sunshine is really good flick.
Ed's
I love-
asking- Sorry, go ahead, Tamsin.
Oh, no, sorry, I was just going to say I really enjoyed that film, but like that last act completely.
Yeah. The last made me never want to watch it again.
Oh, I didn't even know he did that.
Yeah.
Sound. I remember in the cinema, like the sound editing was really awesome. It was not like the ending really bummed me out.
Now you guys liked Mandy. That counts to me as kind of a horror movie.
Yes.
I don't think that's a horror at all.
You know,
I think
No. To me, it's like a crazy like metal video.
it does have. I would say it has elements of horror in it.
To me, it has like David Lynch style horror. So to me, that's not horror. It's more like creepy, but not like jumpy. I mean, I guess maybe you could like classify it as horror in some, but yeah, to me,
I wouldn't say it's like a strict horror film.
I mean,
Yep.
it's definitely odd. But if I was gonna, I'll put it this way: if I'm working in a video store, if they were still around, and you had to categorize that movie in a category in the video store, I would think it would go in the horror section.
Yeah, Yeah, it would be very tough for me to choose what I would say, because I feel like it's quite a like genre defining
Yeah,
film,
definitely.
which is why I really like.
No, like Color Out of Space or Annihilation.
Yeah,
I people call them horrors. Definitely call them a horror.
yeah.
See, now Annihilation to me would go into science fiction.
Well, that's the
You
thing.
know, it definitely has horror elements to it.
No, there's
But I
only
guess
like
Alien
one.
would also go into science fiction too. Sorry, go ahead, Addy. I interrupted you.
Actually, I was going to say something, but I kind of considered because there's only one, but actually I could think of two really creepy parts. It's more than just one.
Ed is asking for Mark and Lisa if you force Jack to movies that you love from the 80s and so on.
Yes.
Oh, we've already done that. Yeah.
Oh yeah, but he really doesn't like most of them. He didn't even like Goonies really, which we were real surprised about. But
Goonies is much slower
Well,
than I remembered.
you realize that the pacing of movies from like the 70s and 80s is much slower than it is now.
It's true.
For a kid growing up right now, especially with YouTube and video games and memes and everything, a lot of those movies are just too slow for them.
Way too slow.
They get so bored out of their mind. So we've made him watch some stuff, but he liked Ghostbusters.
Oh, did you like Ghostbusters?
He did like Ghostbusters.
Yeah, I mean, and Ghostbusters, it's got comedy and it's got the the silly ghost, and then it's also kind of scary. So
he liked it a lot. He liked it so much he watched it again the next day.
Well, that's not from the 80s, but.
Well, no, but I'm saying that as far as like horror movies go, because he didn't like watching horror movies. He wouldn't watch the sequel though. That was what was weird. I think it was almost like the sequel came out like what 7 or 8 months later, and I think that he remembers liking it, but I think that once the memories build up in your head, it becomes worse than it was at the moment. And so he was like, "No, I'm good." And the funny thing is, he didn't miss anything because the sequel is terrible.
Somebody mentioned on Facebook about Close Encounters of the Third Kind, and we tried to get Jack to watch that a couple of years ago, and oh boy,
that's a slow movie.
He was almost angry. He was so bored.
Funny. Now I remember, actually, even as a kid, I remember watching that film, but it didn't quite grip me, and I think it probably was the pacing.
Same.
Yeah.
I think by the time I watched it, it was already like 10 years old, and I think things have moved on.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But no, it's definitely with a lot of those older films, you have to sort of, when I'm watching them now, with a more critical eye, and there are films that I still really enjoy, but I can definitely see why a modern audience, a young audience would.
Yeah, I mean, it's just it's not the way movies and things are catered to them in this day and age.
I mean, I think movies today often are way too.
I agree. I think there's a happy medium to be found. Yeah.
Because I do miss some of the development, story and character development from.
Oh, yeah.
Mm-hmm.
I agree 1,000%.
Well, Alberto says Close Encounters is his favorite Spielberg movie, and he watched it yesterday.
So, Mark, you really like it.
Oh, I love Close Encounters. I think it's awesome. But I was very as a kid, I was very enthralled with the idea of alien life. I mean, I wanted to go to space camp when I was a kid. My parents couldn't afford it, but I remember begging, especially that movie Space Camp came out, and I was like, "Oh, this looks amazing! I want to go there."
As a child, I don't think space camp was a thing in Britain.
No. No, it's a very American. It's a very American
I
thing.
mean, in general, going to camp like over the summer just wasn't something that we did. But the idea of space camp is like that was completely alien to me.
Well, space camp, because you had to go do it in, was it in Huntsville, Lisa, or was it in Florida? I can't remember.
I don't remember.
So you actually had to, your parents would have to drive you if you were going to go all the way down
And
to,
of course, it was extremely
crazy expensive. I mean, like you go for a week, and I think at the time, keep in mind, this is like mid 80s, early 80s dollars. To go for a week was like $3,000. But man, I was heartbroken when my parents had to break it to me that they couldn't afford to send me to space
if they
camp.
had sent you to space camp, you could be an astronaut right now.
I could.
And not drawing funny books.
That's true.
Yeah.
Couldn't think of a worse thing than going to space.
Oh, it sounds miserable.
It sounds very scary.
Like in science fiction, when you have artificial gravity and you can go to different planets and stuff, great. But to go to the International Space Station for like 600 days or whatever it is they do sounds absolutely awful.
Yeah. You have strong feelings about this.
I do, because I think about it. It's like your muscles and your bone density, and it's just awful.
They're saying it actually alters your DNA depending on how long you're up there now.
Yeah.
So.
Horrible.
Plus, you have to wear a diaper. I'm not down with that.
Well, that's no different than normal.
Shut up.
I'm wearing one now.
You
I
are
don't even
seven.
wear, I just wear them for fun.
I'm gonna make a face mask out of a diaper.
There was someone who made one out of like a sanitary towel.
Sounds great.
Oh, we did watch Idiocracy with Jack.
Oh, that's right. We did show Jack Idiocracy. And he did enjoy that.
He did enjoy that.
That's not an old movie though.
No.
That's oldish. I mean,
It's
it's
from the-
been a while.
I mean, it's old for him.
Yeah.
But
Great movie. So ahead of its time.
Oh God, yeah. It basically was like the Nostradamus of our present political climate.
Tragically, yes.
What was Jack's favorite name in there? Burrito Supreme, Beef Burrito Supreme.
Oh, and we just recently watched Jumanji 2, which he really
That actually was very
that actually
entertaining.
was pretty cute. It was pretty fun.
I'm trying to talk Lisa into let me show Jack Alien.
I would go with Aliens first, actually, to be honest.
I was thinking about that, but the whole Ripley aspect of it is that
It's just the
that-
pacing. I would say
Yeah, the pacing.
Alien is
Yeah,
more
Alien is slow. There's a lot of slow parts.
that's true. That's true.
quite slow pace. So he would be equal parts bored and terrified.
Yeah. He'd be bored for long stretches and then terrified. For
Yeah,
long.
and then need like counseling afterwards. So
Exactly.
maybe a couple of years.
Well, we had Jack sit down and watch Birds of Prey with us, and the movie opens up with Ewan McGregor's character cutting the faces off of 3 people hanging
He
upside
was
down, and Jack was
not
like,
happy.
"No!"
He really doesn't like violence and gore, so he was not happy about that. Poor thing. Even I was like, ah.
Yeah, I was too. I was like, "What the
I
hell?"
wasn't expecting this.
The thing is, it's rated R, and the only reason it's rated R is because they say "fuck" like every other word, but it's so pointless. Like they could have easily just made it PG-13 and just have them say shit and bastard or whatever. They don't, but I don't know. It just felt like, what was the point of making it rated R? Like I get why Deadpool was rated R,
Right.
but this one it didn't make it. It just seemed like they were just kind of going for like trying to be edgy.
I think they would have done better too if it was.
Oh, I think it absolutely would have done better. I think it being rated R was one of the biggest problems.
Well, it's really tough for films that like, the directors and everything to decide, I think, because, you want the edginess, but then you don't want to lose the audience.
Right.
No, we were watching, I was just thinking about like that when we were watching Picard, and there's an episode that starts with like quite a graphic, horrible scene. And it's kind of like out of nowhere because there hasn't been anything else like that in the show. It's interesting how sometimes they do that. They kind of like catch you off guard.
Yeah.
They just want to remind you, hey, this is for adults. How's it coming there, Eddie? You happy so far?
Huh?
You happy with it so far?
Yeah.
That's a good look.
Well, Scott Hassett has joined us. Hi, Scott.
Oh, awesome.
You did. You must be ahead. I'm not seeing that.
We should get Scott to come on the live cast with us at some time. That would be fun.
Man, my camera is focusing somewhere in the middle ground. I don't understand. It's not focusing on the art. It's focusing like here. Ah, there it is.
You got it? Yeah, it's definitely not focusing on the art.
Yeah, it's weird.
Sorry.
Is Scott still watching? If Scott's watching, Scott should ask his questions. Scott's good at asking questions. He hosts panels and stuff at conventions.
He says, hello, artist. I'm Mark.
Ah, very funny.
Still got it.
Still got it. I take back everything I said about him. He's a dick. I bet Scott would appreciate my old man voice.
Why?
Because it's my improv, my acting. Ridiculous.
So how long do you both think it'll take you to finish these from where they are now?
Hours and hours.
Yeah, probably finish it tomorrow sometime. But I'm trying to kind of like get to a point where it's starting to look a bit more interesting, because right now it's like the ugly stage of just laying down like the bass tones, and I'm actually really liking. It took a while. I spent like 10 minutes mixing the skin because I wanted to have it just right. But I'm gonna now drop in the background because that'll influence a lot of what's happening with the character. And just trying to decide whether to have a kind of a typical, night scene with like lightning type thing, or have her in Wakanda with like jungle around her. And I think because it'll be a bit more interesting, I'll go with the jungle.
Yeah.
Wakanda, I hardly even know her.
The silence says it all, Mark.
I didn't understand. I'm sorry.
Tamsin, I don't think anybody understood.
Oh, I see. So it's not just me. Then.
No, it's all Mark.
Okay.
It's just you, Tamsin.
Dang it.
Oh, I've lost you.
You lost me. I'm right here.
So, do you guys have any exciting plans for next week?
Oh yeah.
Oh, super exciting.
Oh,
Yeah.
super
Yeah.
exciting.
Huge plans.
I'm gonna sleep, eat, and paint.
Maybe lift some weights.
So lift some weights.
Yeah.
I have planned to make breakfast for dinner one night, and we are very excited.
I am
about
super
that.
excited about that. Lisa said, let's have breakfast for dinner. And I went, oh, hell yes.
That's where we are in the quarantines.
Breakfast for dinner.
Okay, you guys will appreciate this. I just got a notification from Delta saying that our boarding passes for Cape Town are available. But the thing is that Delta canceled our flights weeks ago, so that's really weird.
Will we be leaving for Cape Town today, right, or tomorrow?
Tomorrow. But Delta is confused. Oh.
Scott is asking if either of you are using reference for the faces.
Yes, I am.
I am not. I will say I used reference when I originally drew the face, but I'm not looking at anything now to render it.
No, mine is a combination of like 4 different things.
Yours,
But,
it kind of looks like right now. It looks like Iman.
Wow.
That's her name, right? Model. David Bowie's wife.
I don't think it looks like her.
It kind of does. Fine, it doesn't. Never mind.
She's a very-
Iman.
Mhm. Martin wants to know who has the better portion.
Who has the what?
The better portion.
Oh, Addie. That's no contest.
I don't feel like I know enough about.
If your hand is covering a lot of that, can you angle your camera to the side?
Not really. It's not covering all the time. It's pretty much the best I can do.
He's realized that his natural sleep cycle is from about 2 a.m. to 11-ish. Have you guys been thrown off when you're sleeping?
No.
Nope.
No, not really. I mean, I hold myself to a pretty standard schedule every day. What are you laughing at?
No, I think you have to keep in mind this quarantining for these two hasn't really impacted that much.
Yeah.
I mean, you guys have just been doing what you're always doing. Now, Jack and I are around.
Yeah, I mean, Abby and I go to bed quite late anyway. We usually go to bed around between like 1 and 2 and tend to wake up around 9 or 10, depending. So it hasn't made a massive difference to us. We've just kind of carried on with that.
Stay calm and carry on.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, what else can you do?
It's true, there is not much else to be done.
My comments are loading really slow, so I don't know what's
Mine are too, actually. So I don't know. I don't know why.
Okay.
My goal is just to have at least 2, if not more, pieces of art every week.
It's a good goal.
Just to keep yourself busy.
No, just actually, it's not about even being busy. It's about making like the most of my time.
Yeah.
Because then once it's kind of over, I'll be able to like look back and be like, oh wow, that was a time I did a bunch of painting, and hopefully got better at it.
My goal is to Skype and annoy Addie at least twice a week.
Well,
and it's working.
Success.
Phil is asking if you had any memorable commission requests.
haven't really done commissions in forever, so.
I had a guy ask me to draw Frodo and Bilbo, no, Samwise and Frodo having intercourse.
Oh, why?
I don't know. I didn't draw it. I said no.
No.
No, thank you.
I haven't any silly requests started charging for commissions.
Yeah, when
It's
they're
only,
free.
yeah, when I used to do free con
Yeah.
commissions, that's when people would ask for stupid stuff.
Yeah, years and years ago, it was like if they were getting it for free, some people didn't seem to then consider it like.
Well, they were basically treating me, my art, and my time as a joke.
Yeah.
So it's like, oh, can you do a monkey in an Iron Man suit?
Yeah.
And where are those drawings now?
Yeah.
They got a laugh out of it and moved on, and so yeah.
The
Anyway.
guy who wanted the topless woman for a free sketch was one of my favorites, actually.
Oh, I had one guy that was trying his damnedest to feel me out, see what I was willing to do. And so he starts off by saying, can you do a commission of, can you do a drawing of Chun-Li and M. Bison from Street Fighter? And I was like, yeah, I can do that. And he goes, okay, can you make Chun-Li on her knees and M. Bison standing over her? And I said, I guess. And he goes, and can you put a chain around Chun-Li's neck and have M. Bison holding the chain? I was like, maybe, I guess so. And he goes, can Chun-Li be naked? I went, you know what, never mind. I'm not doing this. I'm done.
No, we've told you guys this story for sure, but one time at a show, I was doing free head sketches.
Yes.
And a guy came up and he wanted like a naked girl. And I said, I'm really sorry, this is like head sketches, so no. He was like, oh, well, just one titty out.
It's like, can you do just one booby out?
Oh, okay.
Oh, in that case, okay.
It was not the best way to get what he was after.
Wow.
Addie Scott is asking, do you usually finish a specific area like the face and hair before dipping into the rest of the figure?
No, I've been trying really hard to kind of work on everything together. It's just right now, just for this video, I kind of thought to skip a bit, just to make it a bit more interesting before I fill in the large areas of the costume and the headpiece. But I try really hard to kind of work the whole area and kind of move everything together forward, because I realized the background will inform so much of what I do on her skin or what I do on her outfit. And if I get bogged down in rendering one area, I just find myself then kind of feeling like it becomes disjointed. So it's hopefully this will work out now that I'm kind of jumping around. But I thought it was very important to put in the green, because that green will then really inform so much of the lighting on everything else. Especially actually her black costume, because the highlights on black are obviously not gray. They will be very much influenced by the surrounding. So that's kind of the thinking.
Hi, Joseph. He's asking, Mark, with the recent X of Swords piece you did you have any input into the design of each sword?
a little less than half of them. The other swords are already
Canon, right?
yeah, they're canon. They already exist in the X-Men Marvel universe. So I just just had to stay on model for those. But like Cyclops' sword, Storm sword, a few of the other ones, Scalp Hunter sword, stuff like that. I just created, and I Marvel just said, do a sword that kind of would go along with their character, and so that's what I did. That's why Cyclops has kind of like the laser sword, and I know it's kind of hard, it's not super evident, but the hilt of Cyclops' sword is supposed to look like his visor, so it looks like the beam coming out. Storm, I just gave her like a lightning sword, stuff like that. That was actually a lot of fun. I like designing swords. I didn't realize I would enjoy it that much.
Do you like crossing swords?
You do. Gotcha. Sweet comeback. He'll never recover from that one. I'm trying to think of another hypothetical for Addie. I have one of them. I'm trying to think of the second one.
Yes. How exciting!
Oh, it's very exciting. This one is really good. But I got to think of something equally as terrible for the other option. Otherwise, it becomes too obvious.
Maybe I can summon Loki again. Loki!
He is here, but he's silent.
Aw.
He's oddly quiet.
Yeah.
He was kicked out of the room for a couple of hours, so maybe he's trying to keep
So he's trying to
a low
I
profile.
was decorating, and I didn't want him to get covered in paint. So
Did you do the second layer of paint, Tamsin?
I did.
Tamsin, you've been painting this week.
Well, yeah, just on and off. I did the first one on, I can't remember if it was Wednesday or Thursday, and then just finished it today. But it looks much better. Very exciting.
Very exciting. It is exciting. It looks great.
Oh, it's certainly about just lockdown.
Just
We have two things done that we don't usually have time for, like
it's
some commission.
Scott is asking, and I don't even. I can't.
I want to hear you pronounce those names.
Can you do me a
Uta.
Utu coupling with Zira and Cornelius? Is that English? What are you?
Scott is showing his comic prowess.
He's nerding out.
He's nerding out hard.
I don't know any of those names.
What is it from?
I can't remember. I know the names. They're Marvel character. Well, Utu is a Marvel character, I think. Are they fantastic? Scott's favorite Marvel characters are the Fantastic Four, so they may be in the Fantastic Four canon.
We're gonna need.
I'll do Dupe and Groot getting it on.
Yeah.
Scott, push your glasses up on your nose and tell us who these characters are. Well, you see, Utah was born in the region of
First appearance in.
Oh, it's the Watcher.
Yeah.
Utah the Watcher. You're gonna just say the Watcher, Scott.
We're really terrible nerds that we didn't know. I'm sorry, Scott.
I knew they would be Fantastic Four characters.
Coupling with Zero and Courtney. Is that a threesome? Is that what you're asking for?
I just saw Scott earlier today.
Oh, by the way, whenever we're on a plane, we always see Scott pop up on something. It's like the weirdest.
Some movie, yeah.
Weirdest thing. Yeah.
No, I was watching The Office today, and they do a scene where it's the guy doing all the pictures for their new photo IDs, and then Michael Scott wants to do like a office photo, and Scott is the photographer that keeps raking Scott Michael Scott for money, $20 a shot.
And Scott says Zero and Cornelius are from Planet of the Apes.
Oh, Cornelius, that Cornelius. A throuple.
Adam Jones is a huge Planet of the Apes fan.
Is he?
Yeah, he has one of the fiberglass statues of one of the apes that was used in one of the movies. It's a life-size statue of a ape holding like a scroll.
Wow.
I remember seeing it as a kid and just being so freaked out. Like it was hard for me to and it freaked me out so badly.
Was it the way their mouths move?
It was the concept of it. All of it was just scared the bejesus out of me.
My dad was really into Planet of the Apes. I never could really get into it. You know, it was by the time I saw them, Star Wars had already come out. And it's so funny to think, was it Planet of the Apes that came out the year before Star Wars or something? Or one of the Planet of the Apes did? Anyway, they were really close together, but they looked like they're worlds apart. And so by then, you know, Star Wars had come out, and and I think even at that young age, it felt super dated to me.
We like the new films.
Yeah, I like the new.
Absolutely.
I do too.
Have you ever been to Zuma Beach in LA or in Santa Monica, Malibu?
Yeah.
I don't think so.
It's the beach where the final scene on Planet of the Apes, you know,
where you see the Statue of Liberty.
Yeah, it's Zuma.
Yeah, someone put a picture up the other day of because I guess that area has barely changed, and he had a picture from the actual movie, and then he was holding it away from him, and he took a picture of the picture he was holding lined up with the picture he was taking of, you know, him being there, and it still looks up perfectly.
Oh, really?
Yeah. I mean, it's a big rock face, and there's not much you can do to it really, so it will look the same.
Well, you would have thought maybe like erosion or something like that would have taken place all this time, but it looks like it hasn't changed whatsoever.
Now, my main issue when I'm watching Planet of the Apes is just that, especially with these newer films, I just find it really sad because I'm definitely Team Ape.
Oh yeah, I'm always on the side of the apes.
Oh yeah, for sure. But that's why the remakes were so. I mean, just because, you know, they're using the real, you know, they're CG obviously, but because they're what they really look like, it's just so much more heartbreaking watching it.
As opposed to people in monkey suits. No,
right.
No, what about the Tim Burton version?
I only saw one. I don't remember much of it.
You know,
I'm not a big Tim Burton fan, so.
Oh yeah, you know, I completely forgot he had done that.
Remember Helen Bottom Carter played one of the apes?
Yeah,
And those were actually just, you know, people in makeup. Oh, so Tim Roth played the villain in that one.
I do like it. He's really good. But yeah, I haven't seen the film.
I think it was Mark Wahlberg was yeah. It was okay. I like Tim Burton. I like earlier Tim Burton than the more recent stuff. I did like he did Sweeney Todd, didn't he?
He did Sweeney Todd, but I liked Ed Wood. I mean, Ed Wood.
Ed Wood's great. Sweeney Todd is really good.
And Edward Scissorhands. I loved both of those.
Nightmare Before Christmas, of course.
He didn't direct that though.
He didn't direct Nightmare Before Christmas?
Did he not?
Well, I guess not. Boy, it sure has his aesthetics written all over it, though.
He produced it, and I think he did a lot of work on it, but he didn't direct it.
That would make sense, because I guess if you're doing claymation, you really have to know what you're doing, and I don't think he'd ever done anything like that prior to that. So, probably needed someone in there that actually knew what they were doing.
Ed is asking if we've been to the new Star Wars sections at Disney.
Yes.
No.
Oh, you haven't, Mark?
No, haven't.
Oh.
We were going to go. We were talking about going to MegaCon this year just so we could go, but obviously that's not happening.
Well, we have been, and I'm not I've probably been crucified for saying this. I'm not the world's biggest Star Wars fan, but I really, really love the section at Disney. They've done an incredible job. It makes it, you really do feel like you are there.
I'm not a fan of Star Wars at all, but I also liked the Star Wars land.
It was great. Really amazing.
While we're admitting things, I'm not a Harry Potter fan, but I love the Wizarding World of Harry Potter.
I really need to go. Actually, I'd love to do that.
I'm not a Harry Potter fan, but I loved the Harry Potter experience in near London. That was incredible.
I really would love to go to the park, though. I think that would be great.
Oh, it's really cool.
It's amazing.
Super immersive.
Amazing.
Because I agree. I find Harry Potter to be pretty.
Insulting.
I'm not insulted. It's just not for me,
There you go.
I think we're just not the audience, really. But yeah, I like stuff that's immersive like that. So when I feel it's proper escapism, when you feel like you are transported somewhere
In another world, yeah.
Exactly.
Another world.
Scott's asking, have either of you ever painted over someone else's pencils?
I have not.
No, we actually talked about this recently.
I think.
Right.
Oh, I did. Well, I didn't really paint over it.
It was a long time.
It was one of my first things at Marvel. Joe Quesada did the layouts for, I think it was 6 connecting covers, and I did one of them.
It was Luke Cage and Spider-Woman.
But actually, I didn't color that. That was the one and only time somebody else colored of mine has been published. And it was Richard. Colored it.
That's the only time
Yep.
I've done that.
Yeah, I mean, I've definitely been colored by other people, but as far as me coloring over somebody else, I've never done that.
No, I think I mentioned it last time, but quite like to paint over Jeff Darrow, and we've talked about it, but just hasn't happened yet.
Can't imagine how long that would take.
Well, it depends on what it is. He doesn't always draw crazy scenes. Like if he, painted a really nice, or if he drew like a nice Shaolin cowboy, I'd love to paint that.
Joe Suzko and I talked for a little bit about me penciling something and he painting it, and I'd be very interested in seeing that.
It's always with this stuff, it's always just like being organized enough and having the time to get it
Right.
done. That's always the difficulty.
I mean, for me, the appeal of like doing it with Jeff is just because our work is so different that I think it would just be really interesting. Plus, I'm a huge fan.
The thing is, if I was going to paint over somebody, I'd want to paint over somebody that doesn't paint already. Which obviously Jeff Darrow's a good example of that because he doesn't normally paint. It's just kind of just line work. So like I wouldn't want to paint over someone like Adam Hughes or Travis Charest or someone like that.
No, but that's the cool thing about Jeff's work because it's line work without too much like indication of shading.
Mm-hmm.
So I could actually like create the lighting while so that there would actually be enough for me to do that would be interesting, rather than just coloring in his work.
Yeah. I wouldn't mind painting over like Stuart Eminem. That would be a lot of fun because his work is so kinetic and so angular. I'd love to see what I would do over something like that.
Alberto was just saying that for him, Planet of the Apes and B-movie monsters from the 50s and 70s had an old nostalgic vibe that he could really enjoy. The Ray Harryhausen monsters, but they have a theatrical quality that CG never gets.
It's true.
Oh yeah.
Agree completely. I know it's probably like showing my age or whatever, but I really do enjoy practical effects so much.
Well, the thing is, practical effects don't actually necessarily, they don't age.
Yeah.
But CG, even like 5-year-old CG, looks really dated.
Yeah.
Yeah.
No,
I was reading an article the other day about CG, and it was saying why CG is so bad, and they broke it down really well. They were talking about the lack of gravity, and just I mean a lot of things we all notice, but somebody who actually works in CG to say, here's the things we need to fix about this, and it was really interesting.
Scott says he remembers Alex Ross painting over Perez for Crisis.
Oh yeah, the
painted quite a few people actually. I mean, he painted all Braithwaite.
Yeah.
He's done a cover over Jim Lee.
Yep.
He did Liefeld recently.
Did he?
Yeah.
He did what? Sorry.
Liefeld.
Oh wow.
He did it was an X-Force cover, I believe, like Cable. Should be able to find it, I think, because it was just posted recently.
On his Instagram?
It might be on his Instagram. I know it was shared like, Newsarama and places like that. But it was interesting to see such a stylized artwork. Like I think I really like Jim Lee and I like Alex, but when Alex painted over Jim Lee's work, I don't know, something kind of disjointed about it. You think Rob Liefeld would be even worse because it's so stylized, but it kind of worked.
No, I'll have to look it up. Sadly, I can't back out of this on my phone, so I'll die, but later I'll look it up. Oh, according to Alberto, Alex Ross painted over Bruce Timm as well.
Oh, I have seen that actually. Yes.
I have not, but I really love his work. I'd be very curious to see that.
Good, guys.
Thank you. Hair always is one of the things that takes the longest. I always feel like I'm doing surgery when I'm doing hair.
Not their faces?
No, because I mean the face is just blending shapes, but hair I'm trying to create, I don't want to draw each individual strand, but I'm also trying to get a sense that it's clumps of hair. It's got weight and volume to it. I mean I do that with a face too, but there's so much of it, and it's all going to be different depending on what part of the head the hair is coming from.
Who draws the best hair?
It's a good question.
I like Adam.
Adam does beautiful. Actually, I learned how to draw hair from Adam. He did he did back when Wizard magazine was still being published. They used to do the you know what it's called, Addy? The how to draw section in Wizard magazine.
I don't remember.
I don't remember what it's called, but anyway, Adam did one, and he did use Scarlet Witch, and he was talking about how to draw hair, and he used an example of ribbons. Like, you know that thing when you're doing Christmas presents and you have a ribbon and you take the scissor and you go zip and it makes a curl. Yeah. Well, that's kind of what it is. It's kind of like a ribbon that's kind of like falling. And I've always, you know, that always stuck with me. And so my hair's always been very like ribbony.
I remember reading an interview with Mobius, and he was asked something along those lines, and he said Manara. In his opinion, Manara drew the best hair. So I have always kind of maintained that as my standard for like. Well, actually, it's kind of like it's a combination because Mobius always tried to avoid drawing complicated hair, so he would usually just block it in, which I really, really like. So I kind of alternate depending on what I'm trying to do between like a kind of just a graphic representation of hair or like a real flowing Manara style hair. Because Manara, the big difference between Mobius and Manara for most of his career, so not his Jean Giraud stuff, but his Mobius stuff, he inked with a pen, while Manara usually inked with a brush, and you could really tell how much life that brush gave to especially hair.
Rich Cirillo says, so does Olivia and Neil Adams.
Do what?
Draw beautiful hair.
Oh yeah, absolutely. Olivier kind of does that kind of like shape thing rather than doing the strands. He kind of relies, especially with lighter hair, he really relies on the silhouette. Olivier.
No, Olivia.
Oh, Olivia. Oh no, she does great hair. Yeah, I like. She does her hair. It's really interesting because all the hair she does is very shiny. You know, it's like, I mean, her hair very like Pantene kind of thing. And so she does her little not step by steps, but a little speed video she does on Instagram. And you see what she does, that she uses those super fat tipped Copic markers and she blocks in the hair with that and then ends up going back with a brush to kind of like add the strands and a little bit of airbrush to soften it up. But it's really funny that when you look at the finished piece, it looks like it was done with like a fine brush, but you realize that it's just these blocky chunks that she put in there. It's really interesting.
Actually, technically, as far as like just like technical brilliance goes, Sorayama does the best hair.
Yeah,
it's unbelievable.
Yeah, he does make the best hair.
Mark, make sure you're adjusting.
Oh, am I not in the center? Is my thing slipping? Let me see where I am.
Jen Grunwald says, "Who draws the best mustachios?"
I draw the best mustachios.
You have to have one to draw the best one, right?
I refuse to draw mustaches because they're disgusting.
Everyone, that is the sound of jealousy. Did you hear that?
Sound of reason.
Jealous reason. What?
Jen says, "Thank you, Eddie."
No problem.
Jen's just jealous she can't grow a mustache either.
Jen, you can grow one and then you can dye it whatever color you want. How about that?
Is there anything either of you find particularly difficult to draw? Like now, obviously, you know, you're so used to it as a professional setting, having to draw so many different things. But is there anything that you still like you feel like you struggle with more than anything else, or it kind of makes you think, oh, I've got to do that?
No, since I started painting more than drawing, because I used to color drawings rather than paint, but since I actually started using color as a drawing medium or painting, I can tackle pretty much anything. So I don't really find anything like particularly.
Nothing strikes fear into your heart.
No, not anymore, really. I mean, the amount of work, if it's something that like will take forever, strikes fear in my heart. But so if I was having to paint like a cityscape,
yeah,
that would be a pain in the ass.
Yeah, there's nothing for me that I necessarily struggle with, but there are things that I put more pressure on myself to get right. Like for me, hands are such a huge extension of the expression of the face that I'll get to a piece and I'll redraw a hand. I'll redraw a hand a dozen times, trying to get that hand to like match up with the attitude of the character I'm doing. And so, I mean, I'm sure that 9 times out of 10, the first or second hand I drew was fine, or even probably the better one. But I put a lot of pressure on myself.
Yeah, I get it.
Scott said he really likes, Mark, your portrait that you did of me. I'm assuming you're talking about my Facebook profile picture. So thank you very much.
Oh,
he gave me like an extra large rack, which is kind of interesting.
I really didn't, though. That's how it looked in the picture. Lisa, you have an extra large rack, though. Yes, you do.
Byron is asking if you need a single or a dual action brush.
Oh, dual. Has to be dual.
Always dual.
Like me, why is that?
Dual action brush is basically you can adjust both the flow of paint and the pressure of air. Single action is literally just like you can adjust the flow of air, but not the paint, or the other way around.
Mm-hmm.
Anyway, I've never actually even used a single one, so I wouldn't know. Single one is actually kind of like using a spray can.
I see.
But dual action, basically pushing down releases the paint, pulling back releases the air, so you can modulate.
And as a follow-up, Rich is asking, he's saying, I don't hear a compressor with Abby using the airbrush. What is he using to power it?
It's a compressor, but it has a big tank. So
like an industrial one.
Yeah, well, it's actually a medical one. So it's made for use for medical equipment, and the reason I got one of those is because the air is filtrated, so there's no moisture in the air, which makes because if you end up with moisture trapped, it can splutter. And I don't know. I think it's a 25-liter tank. It's quite large. But I've switched it.
You can hear it come on when you're when you're working and it runs out. It'll suddenly kick on.
Yep.
And then it is pretty noisy.
I've switched it off completely, so
it's
not going to kick in.
Because when it starts, it is very loud.
It is indeed. No, if I need to refill it, I'll turn the microphone off so it doesn't rattle.
Oh. All right, dude. We're running at 2 hours now.
Well, might be time to call it a night.
I think it might be. Let me ask Addie one last hypothetical question. Wait, I'm formulating the second option. Hold on. Okay. Okay, Addie, you ready?
Yeah.
Okay. You either have to eat one of your cats,
Okay.
or you will have to have your entire digestive system reversed, where you have to eat through your butt and poop through your mouth.
I'll eat the cats.
Definitely eat the cat. Definitely eat the cat.
If that were an option, I'd happily eat both cats.
I'll throw in Lulu.
That's not really a difficult question, to be honest.
Okay.
It's an absurd question, but it's not a very difficult question.
Okay, how about this? Your entire digestive system reversed, eat through your butt, poop out your mouth, or you have to swap your butt for your head. So your head is now on top of your neck, and your butt is now in your pants. I mean, sorry, your butt's on your head, above your neck, and your head is now in your pants.
I mean, that is a really absurd. Like, there's no answer for that. What do you want me to say? Either one is awful.
Reverse your butt or head, or reverse your digestive system.
I would reverse my button head. For sure. I would just find some really interesting hats to wear and holes in all my pants.
Pinson, you could just learn to walk on your hands and then it'd be fine.
The whole thing just. It's...
Rich would like to know what you're drinking.
Who?
Mark.
Nothing. This is average sober Mark.
Yeah.
I have a lot of time on my hands.
His brain works in mysterious and terrible ways.
Hey, I'm just trying to entertain you guys. And make Eddie uncomfortable.
Well, it's turning out great, actually. I'm really happy. It's just too bad that it's, only about a third there.
Well, that's fine. We knew you weren't going to finish it tonight.
I know, but I thought I was hoping to get a bit farther with the face.
Well, whenever we talk, time always does seem to fly by. Because I'm so entertaining to talk to.
Butts and penises and all.
Yep.
Alberto's asking if you have to fight another artist, dead or alive, who would it be? Oh, Alberto, you and Mark would have so much fun.
See, this is what I'm trying to spur with these questions. I'm trying to get stuff like this.
Yeah, but that's a good question.
That's a great question.
Not like your questions. Your questions are bad questions.
My questions are amazing. If you guys can think of better questions than me, please, by all means.
I
mean, good luck. I ain't asked the best question. I challenge you.
I'll talk about fighting all day long.
All right, who would you fight?
Who would I fight? I'd love to fight Ethan von Skyler.
There we go.
And I'm not being funny, but I'd fuck him up.
Oh, this is going to be hit the internet.
No, it's not. It's not that exciting.
I don't think I want to fight anybody.
Mark's not a fighter.
I'm not. I'm a lover. Let's fight Addie.
No.
I highly suggest you don't. I am a very aggressive man.
I just want to fight someone I'm pretty confident I could run faster than. I need to be able to get away.
I don't know that Adam would be your choice. Now, if you train so that you can do distance running, then yes. But in a sprint, I would not count your chickens.
What if Mark zigzags? Like he's running from a crocodile.
Like I'm running from a crocodile.
I'm like a hippo.
You poop in the water and then you, you glide by.
Yep. I flick it.
You shake your tail and it just goes everywhere.
Ugh.
Have you seen the videos of the hippos that in reverse?
No.
They only show in the video. They don't see its head, but when it's walking, because they do it in reverse, so it looks like it's walking backwards.
Yeah.
But it looks like another animal because they act like the tail is its face,
Oh.
and they narrate it like a nature documentary, and they're like, and it eats by suction, and it shows the tail wagging, and like it says it's eating anthills, and it's sucking the anthill up into its mouth.
Oh, that's so gross.
It's really funny.
By the way, I think Rich is asking if you've ever got into a brawl at a con or come close to one.
No, not at a con. I mean, I've like had arguments with people, but no, I've never had to like. I mean, I'm not an idiot. I wouldn't like physically attack anyone at a con or anything. Those days are long gone.
Luckily for me,
Yeah.
geez.
No, I don't want people to get the wrong impression. I'm not like fighting people at conventions or anything like that.
Addy just walks into every con automatically bowed up and ready.
I mean, the thing is, you can take boy out of Bosnia, but you can't take Bosnia out of a boy. So, yeah.
I want to fight you like Beat It style. I want to tie our wrists together, and then we have to have a dance knife fight.
A dance knife fight?
Yeah, you've seen the Beat It video, haven't you?
No.
Is that beat it or bad?
That's Beat It.
That's beat it.
Oh yeah.
Oh, beat it.
Yeah.
I thought you were talking about beat it, as in like bead. I'm like beat it video. I don't know what that is.
No, Beat It.
Yes, I've seen beat it. Of course, I've seen beat it.
Yeah. So let's do it like that. Oh, that was what's his name? Sean Bean is one. Yeah, one of the guys that is the gang is Sean. No, wait, Sean Bean. Wait, who's the guy that was in Terminator?
Michael Bean.
Michael Bean. Excuse me.
The other Bean.
The other Bean.
And aliens.
And aliens. Yes.
And the abyss.
Yeah, I had the biggest crush on him. Oh my gosh.
Well, he has not aged well.
I always liked him.
Yeah.
He was in Tombstone as well.
That's right. I'm your Huckleberry. That's my favorite Val Kilmer flick.
Not Kiss Kiss Bang Bang?
I like Kiss Kiss Bang Bang. But
Willow?
I'm not.
Top Gun?
I'm not a huge Willow fan. Tamsin's the big Willow fan.
I love Willow.
I loved Willow too.
It has a really good script, I think, which is why I always really like the humor in it. I think it's really good.
I like the brownies. Is that what they're called?
Yeah.
I like them. They're pretty funny.
I don't think there are many young girls, or probably gay guys as well, who watched that film and weren't madly in love with Val Kilmer as Mad Martin.
He was awesome.
No, I mean, with him being in Real Genius, Top Gun, and Willow, I was like, he's the perfect man. I was like, I love him in everything.
Is he still the perfect man, Lisa?
No,
Not so much anymore.
No, I still like him though. I do. Is he in the new Top Gun movie?
He is, and I have no idea what he's going to play because he's pretty sickly right now.
Yeah.
So I don't know what
they're. A lot of health issues.
Well, he had throat cancer.
Yeah.
So I don't know what they're gonna do or how that's gonna play out, but we'll see. I'm still excited for it. I can't wait.
I'm ridiculously excited for that stupid Top Gun sequel. it's crazy.
That'll be really fun.
I can't wait.
You know what I hope for that movie? Kind of like Endgame. I really hope it's one of those movies that people are so like giddy excited to watch that it's a loud theater.
Oh yeah.
Like Endgame,
Yeah,
everyone was reacting all the
yeah.
time, you know, and it made the experience such a fun movie going experience. I would love that in this for this one.
Yeah, that'd be awesome.
All right, guys. I think this is pretty much it.
Yeah.
Yep. Oh, I forgot. It's up to me to turn it off this time, isn't it?
Thank you, everyone, for tuning in.
Yeah, thank you so much, guys. We appreciate it.
Yeah, thanks. I think we are going to take a little bit of a break. We're probably not going to be back next week, but we might try to be back a couple of weeks from now. And we're talking about doing something kind of cool that we're going to see if we can work it out. A little different than having to sit here and just watch us draw. We thought we could, I don't know, do something a little different, just to kind of break it up a little bit. So we'll talk about that and keep you guys updated, and hopefully we'll see you guys in 2 weeks, unless Lisa and Tamsin decide to do their spreadsheet Animal Crossing live cast next week.
Maybe not.
All right, bye guys.
Bye, y'all. Thank you so much, everyone. How do I stop this?
Thank you so much. Have a really great rest of your weekend.
You too.
Bye, everybody.
Take care.
Bye-bye.
Bye.